is actually to blame for allowing another attack to take place. So we need to ban political correctness. But let's just say that they are able to ban guns. Well, I tweeted this out earlier and got a lot of response from this. So if we do ban guns, that means we're going to also have to ban roofs because jihadis seem to love throwing gay people off of them. But we're also going to have to ban pressure cookers, suicide vests, pipe bombs, knives, plumbing equipment, propane tanks, cars. I mean, it goes on because the issue is we're going to have to ban everything until you out there can admit that Islam has a violence problem.
Joe Biggs here with INFOWARS.com. Now, we've been on scene for over 24 hours here in Orlando, Florida, where a gay nightclub was attacked by an ISIS terrorist. Omar Medine, 29 years old, born of two parents from Afghanistan. Now, we speculated this guy could have come from Pashtun background in the tribal regions of Afghanistan, and earlier this morning we confirmed that that was the case. Now, we also had the ability earlier today, I spoke to numerous people who were there, people who had friends who were there and visited them in the hospital and heard their stories of what happened inside the nightclub on that deadly attack. And these people said that they believe that there was more than just one gunman. Now we have this out of a local ABC 9 News report. I'm going to pull it up really quick. It states this right here. Sources: arrest expected soon of alleged accomplice in Orlando mass shooting. Omar Medine, 29, opened fire at a gay nightclub in Orlando early Sunday, leaving at least 50 people dead and 53 wounded. Sources told Channel 9 Monday that law enforcement could make an arrest in the next few days of someone who helped the Orlando gunman carry out this mass shooting inside the Pulse nightclub, further validating the reports of the witnesses that were there that heard multiple guns going off at the same time. So what does that mean? Is this an activation of terror cells nationwide? Now, we heard 4 days ago now, that Florida was a target, and this was hit. There's going to be a gay pride parade coming up this Friday in New Orleans. Could that be another possible target as well? Are they singling out the homosexual community, or is this a hate-filled message to send to America to scare people, to keep them in their homes, and to let our government completely just kind of run our lives? Because what happens when these attacks happen in San Bernardino, these other places, what's the first thing our government does? They want to call to disarm the American people. And ISIS knows that. They're not stupid. They've survived this long. They're making a lot of money. They have the right idea. They know how to put fear in the eyes of the American people. And they know that when they do that, the government's going to react the same way they always do, especially when you have a Democrat in the White House. Let's call for a gun sweep. Let's call for stricter gun control when our country already has some of the strictest gun control measures in various states where a lot of these attacks happen. At the end of the day, we need to be able to protect ourselves, because guess what? There's bad people out there who want to do bad things to you. Why? Because you are an American. It has nothing to do with your sexual orientation, has nothing to do with anything else except for the fact these people hate freedom, they hate the red, white, and blue, and they hate you. Joe Biggs here with INFOWARS.com. Now we're on scene of the crime that took place the other night. The horrific terrorist attack that killed 50 and left 53 wounded, who are still fighting for their lives as we speak right now. Lines of people are wrapping around different blood donating centers to give blood to help out these victims. And as you can see, tons of police vehicles about 300-400 yards down the road is actually where the club Pulse is, the nightclub where that attack took place. Now, just moments ago, there was a man over here in a fedora. He was one of the first people interviewed after the attack at the club early Sunday morning, and he was regurgitating the exact same stuff we hear all the time, sadly, from these victims in these terrorist attacks.
The question that I would like to know is, are we going to have a better gun control? I mean, as an individual who's able to just go out and purchase an assault weapon, I'm able to go and just have a heyday and go crazy, you know, with innocent people.
They need more gun control, that stricter gun law should have been in place. How could this guy go out and get this assault rifle? They're pretty much ignoring the facts. This guy worked for G4S, which is a security contracting company that gets contracted out by the Department of Homeland Security. This guy had all the licensing that he needed, everything that he needed to go buy a gun legally and as quick as possible. You know, so this wasn't some like random guy who just went in and somehow snuck through the gun hole loop that people say exists or whatever, that doesn't exist, which we've proven false time and time again, because at all those you have to go through background checks and all that. So if this guy had a clean slate his entire life up until now, he would have gotten through. More gun control is not going to stop that. All it's going to do is stop you, the individual, the person, from being able to protect yourself. And speaking of individual, the man kept saying that over and over as he was talking to the reporters about how this individual attacked them, not once calling this a radical Islamic extremist who killed those people because he hated homosexuals. Now, we've seen in Saudi Arabia, they chop their heads off with swords, but no one's calling for a sword ban or a sweep of swords across the country. No, that's okay. But here, an ISIS jihadi comes over here, dedicates his life to the Islamic State, and then murders a bunch of people. But let's blame guns. Let's not blame the fact that we have a problem with radical Islam in our world, and it's now inside of our country. It's declared war on us. We're going to be out here reporting for the next day or so. Stay tuned for more reports as they happen. I'm Joe Biggs with INFOWARS.com.
Well, it's not just the Second Amendment and our right to keep and bear arms, it's the First Amendment and our free speech that is under attack from this very same incident. And of course, this is what we've seen over and over again. If the left disagrees with you on an issue, they don't argue with you. They simply try to silence you, to censor you. We saw this happen in the European Union. George Clooney's wife, Amal Clooney, who tried to jail a Turk who denied the Armenian genocide. Now, I disagree with the Turk. I think that the Armenian genocide certainly happened, but that's the way you combat it, is in the free marketplace of ideas. You debate people, you show the facts. The facts can win, the truth can win out. But they tried to jail him simply because they didn't agree with his opinion, whether right or wrong. And now we see that happening in the wake of this event. Look at what Facebook did. They deleted Pamela Geller's Stop the Islamization of America page after the Orlando attack. Now, this is a page that's been up for years. It has 50,000 members. They waited until the aftermath of this, and then Facebook shut it down. Facebook says the group, the Stop the Islamization of America, has been removed because it violated our terms of use. And yet it's been operating for many, many years. Where did she report that? I think it's interesting to know the people who aren't censoring opinions. She had to go to Twitter to report that she had been censored by Facebook. Here's another censor center. That is Reddit. Reddit bans users, deletes comments that say the Orlando terrorist was a Muslim. And of course, these are Reddit moderators who are actively banning users. Anyone who discussed the Orlando nightclub terrorist religion was shut down. We got a couple of examples of this. One user, Moonsprite, shared a screenshot of an article that he posted online, simply saying, Orlando shooting suspect may have leanings to Islamic extremism, just leanings to it. And for that, he got banned from participating in Reddit news. And they say you can still read it, but you can't put anything else out there. And he wasn't the only one who was banned. Another individual tried to post an update when law enforcement officials raised the death count from 20 to 50, but that thread was deleted before he could finish the comment. So you see, this is the way that they are controlling the media. They used to control the media by having only 3 news organizations. The nightly news every night was ABC, CBS, or NBC. Now that the internet has broken out, we see them moving against it. And as I repeated earlier, the big gun grabber, Senator Markey out of Massachusetts, said that this guy was radicalized by the internet. He wasn't radicalized by Islam, according to him. He was radicalized by the internet. The internet needs to be controlled. Your guns need to be controlled. No, what they're trying to do is enact complete human control. They're trying to control you. Now, this last weekend, Julian Assange pointed out that Google is in bed with Hillary Clinton's campaign. That's another way that they control you, okay? It's not just the social media sites, but it's also Google and what they show you when you look for news. He was speaking at a European Journalism Summit last Tuesday, and the WikiLeaks founder told attendees that Google is, quote, directly engaged with Hillary Clinton's campaign. He noted that in 2015, former Google CEO Eric Schmidt launched, quote, The Groundwork. That's the name of the organization. It's a startup specifically designed to get Clinton elected. He said Google is heavily integrated with the Washington power at personal levels and at a business level. He said the search engine has been gathering an increasing control over distribution channels through which voters take in news about the election. See, if they can control your social media, if they can control the search engines, if they can control what is trending, and that's what Facebook did, remember? They told everybody, oh, we're going to give you an honest reporting of what's trending. It's just a machine. It's going to look out there, tell you what other people are looking at. But they were manipulating that list. And of course, you know, it's a private thing. They can censor whoever they wish. They can manipulate it, but they were telling people that they were reporting what was trending, when in fact, they were manipulating. They were censoring some things that were trending that they didn't like, and they were putting some things that they did want to get out there to you that were not trending. Now, Assange also criticized, of course, Clinton's foreign policy, and I think this is something very important for Democrats as well as even Republicans to understand. He said, what we have with Clinton is someone who is a hawk, but who has the tools of legal interventionism, a rhetorical cover to start wars, and someone who seemingly wants to start them. Yeah, she is a full-on warmonger. That's the reason why all of these people, the Never Trump people from National Review, all the neocons like Bill Kristol at the Weekly Standard, National Review, others, they're all saying, you know, I could live with Hillary Clinton more than I could Donald Trump. That's right. She'll give them their wars. She'll give them their globalist trade agreements that they negotiate in secret. She will give them the open borders that they want. Those are the critical issues. They'll let us argue about abortion. Isn't it interesting that no matter who gets elected, whether Democrat or Republican, nothing ever changes about abortion. The funding doesn't go up. The funding doesn't really go down. The laws don't change. Everything remains the same. But we fight over those issues when in reality, each election cycle, they have something very critical they want to accomplish. Like last time, it was Obamacare or Romney Care, because they were exactly the same thing. We'd seen Romney do it in Massachusetts. Now, we have published, and here's another example of it today on InfoWars, how special is Google's relationship with the White House. Say Google has long ties to both Obama and Hillary. Google, they say, has turned into a traditional U.S. state power. Again, this is another quote from Julian Assange, pointing to the fact that former CEO Eric Schmidt is now heading the Pentagon Innovation Board. This is a report released by the Campaign for Accountability as part of its Google Transparency Project earlier this year, appears to confirm that the company enjoys a special relationship with Washington, and especially Obama and Hillary. They examined White House visitor logs. Google's top executives, employees, and representatives of associated entities visited the White House 427 times from January 2009 to October 31st, 2015. And of course, Eric Schmidt is a frequent visitor to Bilderberg as well. And in April, about 2 months ago, we reported just how close are Obama and Google? You won't believe the answer. Here is an investigation as they were being looked at by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. This is an ethics watchdog investigation. Now, they say the FTC at the upper levels may have misled Congress about how it protected Google. They highlight how the White House went into panic mode to limit the damage to Google. Last March, Google learned that the Wall Street Journal was about to publish details of how the Federal Trade Commission shut down an investigation into Google, contradicting some of the recommendations by its own investigators. Now, what happened with this was this information, just as we have seen with a lawsuit against the TSA, they mistakenly published both the redacted and the unredacted version of some documents. Those documents showed that there was no threat at the time to airports or airplanes, even as they were threatening to turn Texas into a no-fly zone, because we had legislation going through our state legislature that would have stopped those procedures. In the same way, the Wall Street Journal got a hold of this still redacted information. And I gotta say, why would you have an internal Federal Trade Commission thing treated like it was a top secret document? Is that national security? I guess it is, because it's about Google. So it is national security. They say the half-readable report nevertheless showed that staff had conducted an investigation of Google's behavior, similar to the one conducted by the European Union, which began in 2010. They concluded that Google was anti-competitive. They recommended the FTC press charges. The FTC staff concluded that Google had violated the Sherman Antitrust Act in 3 areas, and they continuing behavior would have lasting negative effects on consumer welfare, but it was shut down by the upper brass. Isn't that interesting? And as we remember what we just told you about Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, being on a Pentagon advisory team. I think it's very interesting to look at this story that's from the Mirror via Drudge Report today. Robot which can choose to harm humans sparks an artificial